few seconds. Let's give it 30 seconds before we make a start. We'll wait till 14:01 just so that everyone can enter the room. Right, brilliant. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Crossroad Partnership's 7th live share session. I hope you're all keeping very well. So this session will be all about re-energizing your business, diversifying in response to COVID-19. My name is Thomas Joyce. I work here at Crossroad Partnership, and over the next hour or so, we'll be looking at the various initiatives that businesses are adopting to diversify their operations, particularly during this current climate. So before we make a start, just a few bits of housekeeping I'd like to mention. This live share session is being recorded and will be available to view online. Like always, we will signpost to you for the link to this at the end of the event. Also, I know you'll be able to see that there's just one person watching the event, and you might be thinking, is it only me? Please don't worry, you're not alone, and I can assure you that there is more than one person. It is also worth mentioning that we'd love for you to see our lovely faces live, but to ensure a smooth experience, we're going to keep to our headshots for this session. And on the note of smooth experience, do make sure that you've logged in via Google Chrome, as the platform works best using this browser. So if you are also a regular viewer of the live shares, you'll notice that the screen format has changed slightly to some of our previous sessions. We've done this to enable a larger, clearer picture of the presentation. So I know that has compromised slightly on the size of the chat function potentially. So if you would like to make that bigger, just press the arrows in the top right-hand corner of the attendee list or the participant list and the audio and video section to minimize those slightly to make the chat slightly larger. So brilliant. Let's then have a look at today's speakers. So today we'll be joined by a number of experts from across the industry. These include Ojay McDonald, Chief Executive from the Association of Town and City Management, ATCM. We also have Louise Abbotts, Bid Manager at InStreatham BID. We also have Susanna Wilkes, Director here at Crossroad Partnership, Kate Fenton, Project Manager here at CRP, and also myself, CRP. And we'll also then be joined by Anusha Rajamani, a Project Officer here at Crossroad Partnership, and she'll be moderating the chat facility to the new side, to the right side of your screens. And I'll come back to that feature in just a moment. And also we'll have Joshua West, our Communications Manager, working on our tech support for the session. So let's then have a look at the agenda. So during today's live session, we'll firstly provide you with an introduction to Crossroad Partnership, in addition to some of the projects we work on. We'll then move over to Ojay McDonald from ATCM, who will look at how we can better understand changes to help business diversification. We'll then be joined by Louise Abbotts from InStreatham BID, and Louise will be talking about diversifying the offer and looking at a solution that has supported businesses through the pandemic. And last but by no means least, we'll have Kate Fenton will be talking us through some of the specific initiatives being delivered through CRP's DEFRA-funded Clean Air Villages programme, and many of the initiatives that are available for businesses to engage with. So during the session, there will be a chance for you to have your say via a Q&A session after each presentation. As I've mentioned, Anusha will be moderating the chat facility to the right side of your screens. So please do ask your questions in there during the presentations, stating your name and where you're from. We'll try our very best to answer all of your questions, but if we are unable to due to time constraints, then please do contact us via email and we'll get back to you with a response. Our email addresses will be displayed at the end of the session as well for you to view. So before we make a start, we would like to pose a question to you, the audience. So what we're really keen to open up a discussion on is looking at business diversification, and we'd be keen to see whether any of the audience here today are business owners, and whether any of you have diversified your business since COVID. If you have done that, please do pop it into the chat, discussing maybe what you've done. Yeah, we'd really be keen to open up a discussion and see what your thoughts are and how you've diversified through this time. So, without further ado, let's make a start with today's session. I'd now like to pass you over to Susanna Wilkes, Director of Crossroad Partnership. Over to you, Susanna.
Thanks very much, Thomas. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us to learn about diversifying businesses sustainably in response to COVID-19. As many of you know, Cross River Partnership was formed 26 years ago to build the Millennium Bridge across the River Thames. By now, we're actively helping with delivering London's future together, with all sorts of government, business and community partners. CRP would like to thank its major funders for making this LiveShare session possible: Central Government Units DEFRA and Innovate UK's Challenge Fund, plus the Mayor of London. CRP is delivering a wide range of projects. One of these, Healthy Streets Every Day, is working across 17 boroughs to allocate more street space to walking and cycling, and thus to increase footfall past high street businesses. Clean Air Villages is supporting businesses, hospitals and communities to keep London's air clean, as some COVID restrictions are gradually lifted and new forms of economic activity emerge. CRP's vision is to empower people to deliver innovative projects that support places to survive and thrive. And we've been supporting businesses to be environmentally successful as well as financially successful for more than a decade now. CRP's first Mayor of London air quality funded programme spread the word that clean air is better for business. More than 500 businesses were supported to reduce emissions from deliveries and servicing, and air quality was put firmly on the business agenda as far back as 2013. Fast forward to 2020, and we all find ourselves in the year of the pandemic. As for all other businesses, CRP has had to adapt quickly in response to COVID restrictions, customer needs, market conditions, and price sensitivities. This has included reviewing our business services and balancing property-hosted physical services with digital online services. So we can all do our bit to contribute to financial recovery out of the coronavirus pandemic, while simultaneously paying respect to human health and to the climate crisis considerations. CRP has been supporting a number of London organisations to diversify in response to the pandemic. This has included helping a food bank charity offer home deliveries of provisions parcels during lockdown via zero-emission cargo bikes. You'll hear more about that later. The key to all of this activity is flexibility. So it gives me very great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Ojay McDonald, Chief Executive of the UK's Association of Town and City Management, who will cover understanding change and responding in flexible and agile ways.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Susanna. Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot to CRP for the invite to speak to you good folks from across the UK today. Right, what are we talking about? We're talking about understanding change. And this is where I'm going to start off. So, no, we're not going to be talking about dogs talking to gramophones, but what we are going to be talking about is what this symbolises. This is, I think, most of you out there, if you are as old as I am, boomers, as the kids like to call us, know the sign of His Master's Voice, or HMV, a very popular music retailer back in the day. you might understand what this means. HMV used to pretty much be the dominant force in the UK music retail industry. But that all changed back in 2003 with the introduction of a little something called iTunes, which completely transformed the music industry, turned it digital. Instead of going out and buying vinyls or CDs, you'd now just download an MP3 straight to your iPod or your new spangled smartphone. What is scary is the speed in which this technology has completely transformed the industry. From 2003 in its introduction, iTunes peaked with downloads in 2012, which meant sales of close to $4 billion globally. That's in less than 10 years, less than a decade, they've managed to reach nearly $4 billion globally through sales of MP3s through iTunes. Less than a decade on, iTunes is not even the favored brand in the industry anymore, and the model of selling MP3s is just not a thing. In fact, I think they've actually just reinvigorated the iTunes brand, but the very method of selling MP3s, not a thing, because we now stream. There's a lot about iTunes which became obsolete very quickly. So literally within a lifetime, within a generation, we've seen one industry being completely decimated, and then the industry which replaced it being completely decimated. Now think about that. That's quite scary in terms of the level of change we're seeing today at the moment. And I'm afraid things are only getting worse. Things are only getting faster. We are in uncertain territory, and absolutely no doubt that for a lot of these trends, COVID-19 has only increased cell acceleration yet more. I think that the speed of change we're seeing is probably unprecedented in terms of human history. And just let me give you some examples of some of the things I'm seeing and try and break it down into some of the major trends that I think we're facing at the moment. Many people I speak to, when I initially speak to them, they don't know who this person is. I'm going to explain. This is James Charles. I didn't know who James Charles was until about a year and a half ago when he turned up in Birmingham city centre. He actually went to open up a makeup store in Birmingham city centre in the Bullring, and Birmingham City Council, I don't think knew anything about this. The Bullring said, oh, well, what we'll do is we might sell some tickets for a few kids to come along, see him open the store. They were told there might be a bit of demand. I think they sold 800 tickets for people to come and see him. They thought, right, that's fine. If we can sell that much, that's great. They actually sold the whole allocation, which they were quite surprised by. On the day, 8,000 kids turned up to see James Charles. He brought the whole of the city centre to a standstill, and it's left us all in the industry questioning, who the hell is James Charles and what is going on with our kids? This is the first point. We think there's a social revolution happening because things are really changing in terms of the way younger people engage with the economy, the way they're able to take economic control. We found out a bit more about James Charles through his presence on YouTube. He is actually a social media influencer, does all of his own makeup, engages with kids through his YouTube channels. He has 21 million subscribers, and at the age of 19 was a multi-millionaire. And he has been pretty influential in terms of the makeup retail industry. So this idea that you can have a social media influencer who has that much influence over a particular subsector within retail was a bit of a shock to me, and has been a bit of a shock to many others. He's probably not even the best example out there. For those of you that don't know, let me introduce you to Ryan. Ryan's Toys Reviews. In fact, I think it's been recently renamed Ryan's World. Ryan is another social media influencer. I would have said social media influencer, not a real profession, but absolutely don't listen to that. This kid has found out that it's kids of his age probably prefer watching people play toys on YouTube as much as kids actually playing with toys themselves. And this is how the business model works. Because retailers and suppliers of toys now understand this, what they will do is they will pay Ryan to play with toys on their behalf. And it acts as a great way to get visibility for their products, which then they can sell directly to an ever increasing group of customers. Ryan's been pretty successful at it. He's had over 40 billion views on YouTube. He has 26.5 million subscribers. At the age of 7 years old, he was worth around about $22 million. Just think about that for a second. $22 million in an age where Toys R Us is not necessarily a viable business. That's pretty scary. There is this complete shift where some of our almost historic economic powerhouses do not have the same level of power they once used to, and you have individuals being able to completely change the game. I think in the chat box what will come up is a link to a video by Casey Neistat on YouTube about doing what you can't. I ask you all, once you've finished on this session, take a look at it. It's only 3 minutes of your time and it's well worth it. Social media influencers make a lot of money. In 2019, the average cost of a sponsored video by a social media influencer is nearly $7,000. They are pretty influential as well. It is the way of the world. And there's the stat about Ryan, worth $22 million. So we have a social revolution number one, but this social revolution is clearly being driven by the technology that allows those influencers to have more control and say in terms of how we shape our society, how we shape our economy, what is popular and what is not popular. And in terms of how technology is changing, we've had discussions with Ronan Harris, the MD at Google UK. And one of the things he's been pretty clear on is that the next big thing for some of the big tech companies is to think about how they can democratize technology, how they can ensure that people have more of a say, more of an ability to create and build their own software solutions, including artificial intelligence. And this was demonstrated for a case study in Japan, where a Japanese farmer was able to do almost his own plug and play artificial intelligence program, which allowed him to program his robots to select cucumbers when they were ready for picking. And he was able to do that himself as a farmer. And that's what Ronan Harris tells us, is that tomorrow's generation will probably be able to build their own AI program as easy as we can open and use a Word document today. So that's what they're looking at, the democratization of technology. And what that means is that we truly have an industrial revolution on our hands, because it just opens up the possibility of yet more and more innovation coming forward at just this completely rapid rate, which is really difficult for us to get our heads around and to understand. A quarter of kids today know how to code, and 73% of 4-year-olds own their own tablet device. And I know both my kids, 1, 6, 1, 2, both have their own tablet device. I know this is true. So the kids of today are technology literate by the time they hit double figures, and their ability to be able to use technology is pretty significant. So I can see the pace of change only accelerating because of how they're able to engage in technology, how they're able to design and build and scale up their own innovations in time. Look at this chart, which shows us the speed of innovation from the 60s onwards, and this is only going up and up and up. And some of these innovations really do have a massive impact on how we organize our economy. And just to think about something else which is completely transforming business models for the future, think about what's happening to money, cash, how we undertake transactions. And this was a trend pre-COVID-19, which I can tell you now has probably accelerated to such a level that we might be looking at the complete disappearance of of physical cash unless there is intervention much sooner than I had anticipated. So as of last year, less than 50% of all retail transactions were using cash. And because of that, a number of businesses had started to go completely cashless, because once you take into account counting up the cash at the end of the day, security, and other challenges, which means it's a little bit more expensive to handle cash than to use contactless payments. It just doesn't become worthwhile, and so businesses had already started going cashless, and now we've seen that accelerate to an unbelievable level through the pandemic. We work with Visa, so we're looking for confirmation on some of the figures, but that change to contactless payments, that change to digital payments, it opens up the possibility of a whole new realm of business models. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't even have something like online shopping if you didn't have digital payments, if digital payments doesn't exist. So that change in terms of how we make transactions means new business models. And again, kids are looking more and more likely like they're up for exploring digital currencies. So we need to think about what that means for the future. And is this an industrial revolution everlasting? Is this something which will ever come to an end anytime soon if change is accelerating and accelerating? I'm not 100% sure. And the scary thing is that the one thing that could potentially slow us down is this image. So for those of you who haven't seen this image before, this has been done by work at Reading University. And from social revolution to industrial revolution, this for me is the third and final big change we will see, which could completely impact town centres going forward. So this looks at the average temperature across the globe, with the stripes on the left-hand side going back, I think it's about 100 years, up to 2018, with the stripe on the furthest on the right-hand side. There is clearly, we clearly have a warming planet, which is starting to concern some people and starting to impact weather patterns across the globe. So my third and final big change is the climate emergency and how we adapt to that. Theresa May's last act, and actually probably her biggest legacy in government, will probably not be anything to do with Brexit, but actually the fact that she's made it a legal responsibility for the UK to be carbon neutral by 2050. When you start to understand what that means in terms of how our economy has to change, that's massive. That could impact everything. The way we use buildings, the way we use products, the way we travel to and from our town centres, just about everything will have to change. And that's adaptation to climate change, to make sure we reduce the amount of carbon going into our atmosphere. But it's also mitigation, which means we have to ensure that we make changes understanding the level of impact we've already had on the environment, we've already had on the climate, and understanding that certain things like the flooding we're seeing in certain areas at the moment probably isn't going to go away anytime soon. And certainly a big part of that is issues around air pollution. It's going to be absolutely critical that air pollution is a part of that package of measures we bring forward to support our environment. Not least because with the current pandemic at the moment, one of the things that was found fairly early on by scientists was a concern that the fatality rate from COVID-19 seemed to be higher in areas where the air was more polluted because of the problems from a respiratory angle. So to sum up, social revolution, industrial revolution, and a climate emergency. I don't think I've missed anything out. They are the three big changes we're seeing. Oh, yes. And least we forget a certain virus which is still out there, which, I mean, some of these things, like I say, some of these trends have accelerated. They are not slowing down. And it makes, in terms of change, it makes life slightly exciting, probably more scary than exciting going forward for a lot of businesses. But hey, all I can say is brace yourselves. Where it's going to be an interesting few weeks, months, and years going forward. Thank you very much, everyone.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, Ojay. Yeah, a really interesting talk and presentation there. Brill. Well, I think let's open up a little bit of a discussion on it then, shall we? Because yeah, you've raised some exceptionally good points there. And looking potentially at the digital transformation side of things, do you think that this provides all the answers for business diversification?
No, all the answers. I don't think there will be anybody who can give you all the answers, just because as soon as we get our heads around something, the technology changes. And, you know, for some businesses, the way society and the economy and technology changes, for some businesses, it benefits them. For other businesses, it doesn't. I think with regards to just understanding how people are using that technology, though, especially through the pandemic, I think one of the things I found out this week, actually, from Google, is that people are going online, looking at businesses, browsing products, understanding what it is they're going to purchase before they go out and actually do their shopping. They're using online browsing methods to do much more of the work before they go out to do a shop, before they leave home. And I think that's because of people just wanting to minimize the risk when they're out and about. So browsing time in stores on the high street has reduced, but that browsing time has only been replaced in front of a computer. And it's interesting how these little technological advances are just changing the way we engage with the economy.
Absolutely, yeah. So in essence, using the online as a little shopping catalogue before you go out and buy it. Yeah, so I think that leads on quite nicely then to kind of another question. How, with, as you mentioned then, if people are going online to browse products before potentially going out to the high street to shop for them, how damaging do you think this might become for our high streets if we see potentially a shift towards a little bit more of the online aspect of things? What kind of damage do you see being, well, what's the impact do you then think the high street will see from that?
Yeah, so I think I mean, there will definitely be damage to the high street. It's not necessarily universal damage though. So I think, I mean, just to give you the two examples again of James Charles and Ryan's Toys Reviews. Ryan, with his business model, clearly takes away from the high street, because what he's managed to do is to get kids to engage with the experience of playing toys, understand what it is they want to purchase without ever having to step foot in a store. So that does take away from the high street. The James Charles example was actually an example of someone who's brought thousands of people into a city centre. So the technology can be harnessed, can be used for different things, and it's about us being able to understand how we can make the most of it to support high streets, to support town centres and bricks and mortar businesses. Obviously, with the pandemic, I think bricks and mortar businesses do need to be fully able to engage in online technologies and be able to engage with their customers using Google Maps, whatever it might be. And important as well to say that apparently the second most popular search engine out there globally is not Bing, but is actually YouTube, believe it or not. It is such a powerful tool. And then other social media apps as well, like I didn't mention anything about Instagram in my presentation, but Instagram is growing really quickly. It's really popular.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's some really great comments there, Ojay. And yeah, thank you very much for a really great and insightful talk today.
Oh, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, I can just see that we have had one question from Helen. What I'll do is, Ojay, if it's okay with you, because we're slightly short on time, either if you'll be able to respond, Helen, in the chat box, otherwise we can, I'll ping it across to you after this session, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Perfect, so what we'll now do is then, we'll head on over to Louise Abbotts from InStreatham BID. And Louise will be talking more about a solution that the BID have been using to help businesses throughout the pandemic. So over to you, Louise.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, so moving on from Ojay's kind of exploration of global issues, I'm actually going to be talking about something which is sort of hyper-local and a hyper-local response. So I think that the example I'm going to share today does indeed encompass those points that Ojay has mentioned as well about air quality sustainability and using digital solutions to help to support our businesses that have really experienced some difficult times during COVID-19. So to contextualize it, today I'm going to be talking about a shared electric cargo bike scheme that our businesses in Streatham have had access to since we launched it late last year. The bike project came about because in 2018, Streatham Hill, so the Streatham BID district, travels from Streatham Hill in the north down to Streatham Common in the south. We're based entirely on the A23 on a red route, and air quality, particularly in Streatham Hill, is a real hotspot or grot spot, as you could refer to it. And Lambeth Council secured funding from DEFRA to explore the impact that local businesses and communities were having on the area, and how making deliveries and cars driving to the high street to collect products and services, and how collectively they could work together to make it more efficient. So luckily we worked alongside Cross River Partnership, who delivered some workshops and seminars and looked at what businesses were already doing, what ideas they had, where there was opportunities for them to work together and to create synergy, and how we could progress a project that could improve things. So following the research, we identified a need for a scheme which could encourage local businesses to use alternative transportation modes for local delivery. So a lot of the businesses, particularly on Streatham Hill, were using vans or cars to deliver products and services, both business to business and from business to consumer. We also had the issue that in a really congested area, lots of people, were still using cars for local deliveries, and they were driving up to the high street. Parking is a real problem. So what could we do to support this? So we decided to come up with a shared cargo bike scheme, and we advertised it locally. We wanted to advertise it to both businesses and to residents, so that businesses would get on board with the project, but also residents would, we hoped, nudge their favourite businesses to get on board and get involved too. So we established a local partnership with a bike shop. We're really lucky to have an independent bike shop, Ralph's Bike, on our high street, and we created this bespoke electric cargo bike scheme. So the businesses of Streatham would be able to hire the bike free of charge to do their local delivery. So the shared scheme was using an online booking app so that people could log on, hire the bike, and then collect it from the bike shop on Streatham Hill and use it for their local deliveries. So businesses were really keen to get involved. We were, with partnership with Lambeth Council, offering them free cycle training. So for anyone who's not tried to ride a cargo bike, I've done the training and I can assure you it's not easy. So while some businesses were keen, there was also an element of reticence about how safe it was on the A23, and the fact that leaving a small business to do the training was also difficult, because so many people are, busy working in their businesses that it's difficult for them to leave and work on something which might progress their business. So we decided that the only way that we could break these barriers down was to find a local rider, and so we tried trialing the scheme as a pilot free of charge to businesses. So they could log on to the app, book the bike either for themselves to use or with a rider, to deliver products and services either business to business or business to consumer. So it was going okay, and then lockdown happened, and many of the businesses suddenly realised that because of COVID, I mean, we've seen so many businesses having to adapt and change to keep their businesses going. I mean, we've seen some wonderful examples on the news, and you know, today I'm going to talk to you about some of the ways that our project, so the shared cargo bike scheme, has helped SMEs in Streatham to diversify in order to survive. So suddenly, home delivery from local businesses really became a big thing, and our rider has now done over 600 miles of delivery every single month since March, which was compared to 155 in February. So the deliveries have included prescriptions for the elderly, deliveries of groceries, delivery of pet foods, DIY materials, plants, and so much more. So some businesses continue to use it B2B between their stores, and some of them have, you know, used it to deliver to customers where they would never have done that before. And in fact, some of them were quite reticent about whether this was a useful scheme because no one had asked for it previously. So lockdown in this way has helped to allow those businesses that consider diversification access to a free support mechanism, which was already there, and allowed them to move forward. So on top of the obvious environmental benefits, this locally managed scheme where we have the technology using the booking app has been able to support human interactions and not replace it. And I think that this concept of shopping local and spending local has gained so much traction during lockdown, and we really hope that it will continue. I'm just going to run through very quickly, I haven't got much longer to speak, so I'm just going to run through some examples of some of our local businesses that have diversified and what they've done. And these are all businesses that have taken advantage of this cargo bike scheme, and it's really come into its own during lockdown. So London Smoke and Cure are a smokehouse based in a very working mews in Streatham. The cargo bike has allowed them to increase their delivery capacity. So during lockdown, they also introduced cook at home meal kits. So you could book your Friday night dinner, and then a box would be delivered to you, and you would then be able to cook that at home with your loved ones. So yeah, for them, you can see here Ross is saying that the shared cargo bike scheme has allowed their business to transport larger deliveries and meet their customers face to face. So here is Chris, our rider. So we're also really happy that we've been able to employ a local person to do the deliveries on our behalf. So here's Chris loaded up to Smoke and Cure. There he goes. Hood. So Hood is a neighbourhood restaurant, locally sourced produce that moved from a high-end restaurant to a pop-up shop, and serving restaurant quality frozen home-cooked meals that could be heated up at home. So there is Hood as its restaurant, and here it is as a pop-up shop. And you might also see it just in the back there is a little chalkboard saying frozen meals available. So they were booking up regularly with daily deliveries to local customers. The decorators made. So traditionally they've really been a B2B supplier. They kind of had lots of inquiries from local residents during lockdown who wanted to get busy with their DIY, and so they decided to offer, with the use of the cargo bike, B2C home delivery with obviously the super fast capacities that we can have with a local solution. So Chris, our cargo bike rider, is actually a cycle trainer himself. So because a lot of the school cycle training and schools were shut, he was really available. So that helped as well. So there's the decorator's mate, and there is the bike loaded up. And here is just some of the great feedback that they got. So purchased at 10 a.m, free delivery to my home at 11. Great work from the Streatham cargo bike guy. And then Green Cactus, so eco cafe with lots of locally sourced produce that diversified into delivering fruit and veg boxes to those that were at home on shielding. So there you can see the bike loaded up, ready to go, about to do its deliveries. That looks delicious. I must be feeling a bit peckish. Now moving on, yeah, we also helped a really great pharmacy, Shacklock Pharmacy, a traditional pharmacy that managed to move into doing those deliveries. So yeah, we've been able to really offer this as a solution and support for our local business community. As I said, these are kind of global issues that we've managed to provide a really hyper-local response to. So I hope that you guys have found that helpful, and thank you very much for listening to it.
Brilliant. 600 miles a month. I mean, that's phenomenal. Thank you, Louise, for such a really good and interesting presentation there, and a great initiative that, well, it's great to see that the initiative is working so well. Maybe then, because I'm just maybe thinking in terms of opening up slight discussion. So obviously during COVID, when the cargo bike was potentially being used the most, have you seen that usage be maintained as the shops then started to reopen within the BID area, or were you seeing that less people were now starting to use the cargo bike as such for deliveries, and were actually going out to shop in those particular businesses and businesses and shops?
So I think what's really interesting is that the businesses that found it useful during COVID have decided to continue using it for their businesses, but their usage requirement has dropped as people are now more confident about getting back out onto the high street. I think that it will become part of a wider solution, and I think that there are other elements which, you know, will be important for town centres, and that's finding these kind of like whole town centre digital solutions. So allowing these local businesses that have really great offers to be able to have a really robust online presence where people can browse and shop and then have either delivery or collection. So just to answer your question, yeah, usage has gone down, but I think that the number of businesses that are using it hasn't. It's just the way in which consumers are interacting with those businesses.
Brilliant. Thank you, Louise. So maybe then looking in addition to the cargo bike, were you offering any other kind of support for the businesses within the BID area at all during the COVID crisis and now as we start to emerge?
Yeah, I mean, like most bids, initially we kind of had to, transition into kind of a business support model. And I think that, we were there throughout the process as a kind of conduit between, central government with information dissemination through to our local members, and then directly supporting those that were eligible to apply for the grants and the support that they needed. I think the cargo bike was a tangible scheme, but I mean, obviously all of our other services, such as, planting and greening and those kind of things continue. But I think what's interesting is how we go forward and move on from here, and how we can support our businesses and how we can continue to sort of harness this shop local. Because I think for outer London, very residential town centres and town centres across the UK that, have lots of residential, for us, it's quite an opportunity because we've still got lots of people who haven't gone back to work yet, who, for instance, Streatham, you would have lots of people who worked in the city and wouldn't spend that much time in Streatham. So for us, it's been an opportunity to kind of connect better with the people that are here, but it's how we harness that going forward, and that we build on the kind of momentum, and how we continue to offer really interesting reasons for those people to come to our high streets. Because, with Amazon, everything available at the click of a finger, how can we continue to be relevant, to be interesting, and to create social interaction.
Brilliant. Thank you, Louise. I can see as well that Helen Clark-Bell has popped a question into the chat just around the cargo bike scheme. Yeah, so I don't know whether you'd be able to
I can answer that really quickly to say that this month, Helen, we've moved into a subsidised model where the bid and the business are splitting it, and we will then move into a fully paid for service from next month based on funding and the availability of that. And I think the ability to compete with really large delivery companies, I mean, it's not, there isn't that possibility, but I just think it is about, if people are serious about sustainability and, this real kind of, stay safe, stay local, shop local mantra, if we can build on that, then, we can support those businesses to survive. And I think ultimately, their immediate survival is our concern. But yeah, I mean, it would be impossible to compete with some of those, large corporations.
Well, thank you very much, Louise. Thank you for your great presentation and also the comments on the questions as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Perfect. Great. So now I'd like to introduce Kate Fenton. So Kate Fenton is a project manager here at Crossrail Partnership. Kate manages, I've gone too far. Kate manages the Clean Air Villages programme, and we'll be talking a little bit more about some of the deliverables of the programme in addition to the support that is available for businesses. So over to you, Kate. Apologies, Kate, I don't think we can actually hear you. Is there... I'll give it a few seconds. Hello, Kate, can you hear us? I don't think we can hear Kate. So what we'll do is, I'll quickly try to run through it. I might not do as much justice as Kate does, but if we do manage to get Kate back on the line, she can hand over, well, I'll hand over to Kate. So what we'll do is, we'll allow Kate some time to see whether her microphone will work. So perfect. So the Clean Air Villages 3 programme. It's funded by DEFRA's Air Quality Grant Scheme. And we'll also be having an additional £160,000 in match funding to deliver air quality improvement activities. So the aim of the project itself is to work with businesses, communities and hospitals, offer one-to-one support to help reduce emissions from businesses from business-related deliveries and services. This is from individual-led action, focusing on the dual benefits of improving air quality whilst also saving businesses time and money through more efficient operations. So where is the Clean Air Villages 3 programme working? So it's within 16 villages. So these villages are determined by the air quality within the area, so the air quality hotspots. And this is within 12 boroughs.
Thomas, can you hear me now?
Perfect. Kate.
Sorry, I don't know what happened, but our tech advised me to log in and log out, so I've done that and it's worked. Sorry to interrupt.
Brilliant. Hand back over to you, Kate.
Thank you. Sorry, I was talking away and apparently no one could hear me. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about the slight tech issues. I think I was basically just saying thank you to Ojay for educating me about these global influencers that I haven't heard of. And I was just saying thank you to Louise at the BID, because it's been a pleasure working with the BID on the cargo bike and kind of seeing it with its increased usage and changing usage during lockdown. So I'm not sure quite where Thomas got through in terms of going through the slides, but I'll just kind of pick up pick up in terms of, I'm sure he's said a few things about what the Clean Air Villages 3 project is, but I'll just carry on. So the project's aims are to reduce congestion and pollution through education, interventions, pilots and trials, and through implementing solutions. You probably might have started talking about the air quality focus areas that we work in. So we identify these areas are identified due to their high levels of pollution and footfall. And we call the project Clean Air Villages because the villages, well, each area is unique and it requires a tailored solution. So at the moment, we're currently working with businesses and communities and hospitals across all of these areas to offer tailored advice about what they can do to reduce their impact on local air quality. Working on a broad range of air quality solutions, from cargo bike schemes to an air quality ambassador programme, to shared electric vehicle schemes, to active and sustainable travel programmes. A number of cargo bike schemes were taking place in March, for example, obviously the InStreatham BID one. And these were happening as part of the CAV programme. And so when London went into lockdown along with the rest of the country, obviously, these schemes were redirected to critical services and supported pharmacies by taking deliveries to the vulnerable and the isolating. And they were also used to deliver vital food bank parcels. So it was incredible that we've been able to support in that way. And so since then, we've seen SMEs diversify in creative ways, with more making deliveries directly to consumers. As we can see from the chat, there's the lady from Andrea from Harvey Nichols at the OXO, and she said they've started to do deliveries. So it's a perfect example of a business, changing what they're doing. They weren't doing deliveries previously. So it's therefore a really interesting time to be running such an air quality project. And we're able to support businesses that are diversifying them in this way as part of the Clean Air Villages programme by educating them about zero and ultra low emission vehicles and providers, so that as they diversify, we hope they can do this in a way that is also good for the air that we breathe. So CRP has a free online tool called the CAV directory, and I know there's been a little bit of chat in the messaging function about this. And so this was designed and built as part of the first year of the Clean Air Villages programme. And the directory lists businesses and suppliers who deliver or use zero or ultra low emission vehicles. So organisations have to guarantee that they use these modes a minimum of 80% of the time within the village areas. And we're always looking for new businesses, and our team always gets quite excited when they see branded EVs or bikes out and about. Do let us know if you know of any businesses that are not on the site already. So the directory also includes local businesses who deliver on foot as well, so do take a look. That's just to show you where we have the focused directories for the villages. So new villages within the Clean Air Villages programme had their own dedicated local site created for them, and these were launched on the 10th of July this year. So as highlighted before, businesses have been forced to diversify, think outside the box, and reevaluate their operations during this unprecedented time. And we don't see why those that choose to deliver can't do so in a sustainable way, subject to being cost effective, of course. So CRP works with businesses and communities to offer tailored advice and guidance around air quality that will result in reduced congestion and pollution, and which promotes behaviour change. Air quality is often not a top priority for a business, particularly during these times, as they are money and time poor. Therefore, the more support that we can offer, the better. And our aim is always to offer recommendations which will lead to cost and time savings, with air quality improvements being an additional benefit. CRP also has another tool called Deliver Best. The BEST stands for Business Efficiency and Savings Tool, and we encourage businesses to use this. It takes moments to complete. There's just 10 simple questions which you answer online, and then it produces recommendations for your business based on your responses. And it's things like the name of your business, your postcode, what sector your business is in, whether you operate your own vehicle, that kind of thing. And so recommendations vary depending on your response. And so actually the perfect example is if you're a business in Streatham, it will actually tell you about the cargo bike that the BID has, which was highlighted previously. It also suggests things like doing a review of your ordering processes. It highlights the benefits of receiving deliveries outside of peak hours and other such suggestions. So finally, here's a taster of some of the other work that we're doing as part of Clean Air Villages 3. So we're able to offer businesses that are considering switching to an electric vehicle a free telematics device, which will monitor their usage and provide an analysis of which electric vehicles on the market would suit their requirements. We're also able to introduce small businesses to the most appropriate electric vehicle provider for their business. This should save a small business a considerable amount of valuable resources, because we really do appreciate that, you know, the bigger companies have fleet managers and people whose job it is to look at this. A small business doesn't. And so additionally, businesses trust us. We also produce case studies that show best practice in the context of air quality. And so we share these with businesses that we work with by way of demonstrating benchmark behaviours, and hopefully they also provide inspiration. As you can see, we are working on a diverse range of air quality initiatives. That's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Kate. Glad we got over the tech issue there. You did a much better job than I was. Anyway, perfect. So yeah, I think we've got time for one question actually. So let's just maybe let's have a look then at kind of the one-to-ones that you have with businesses as part of the program. And I know that this is now in its third phase, the Cleaner Villages program. What's kind of the response you're finding this round, with COVID going on, compared to how it was previously on Cleaner Villages 1 and 2? What different concerns are businesses having now as compared to then?
So differences so far appear to be, and I guess they're probably what you might expect, they're concerns about the future. There are so many unknown variables at the moment. The future was always unknown, but we thought we knew kind of what the trajectory was. And I suppose Ojay's talk kind of explains that actually we probably know less than we might think about what's happening in the future and the pace of that as well. But effectively, businesses don't know what will happen to the high street. There's increased unemployment. Consumers have less money to spend. They're really, really concerned about a lack of footfall. So their concerns are, how do I adapt and keep afloat now, and how do I do this in the future? So any support that we can therefore give to businesses as part of the CAV project that saves them time and money, the better. But yeah, it's basically about survival at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Kate. Yes, we've got about 3 minutes left. So what we'll do is we will just like to I'd like to pose one kind of discussion question then for all of the speakers today. And that kind of final discussion will be, what piece of advice would you give to a business who is looking to diversify their operations? So kind of a final piece of advice or final words of wisdom from our speakers. About 20 seconds each would be great. And what we'll do is we'll go in reverse order. So we'll start with Kate, then to Louise, then to Ojay, and then to Susanna. So over to you, Kate.
Thank you, Thomas. So 100% do what is best for your business, but considering the impacts of your operations on air quality actually just makes business sense. The facts are that better air quality results in better footfall, higher consumer spending, and if you reduce freight vehicles on the road and improve local air quality, it's good for your health, the health of your employees, customers, local residents, everybody, and it's better for your business. So when you're looking to diversify, include air quality in your decision making. That's what I'd say.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kate. And over to you, Louise.
I think that being agile and being able to diversify is absolutely the first key. And, reaching out and looking at other people for best practice models and seeing what works and getting involved in local schemes. But I think a lot of businesses, need to look outside and not always look inside, and I think that's what a lot of small businesses find it really difficult to do. But hopefully through business improvement districts, local authorities and other sorts of connected groups, we can really be here to support and encourage people to make positive changes for sustainable futures and future-proofing our town centres.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Louise. And over to you, Ojay.
Just in terms of following the theme of my presentation, just make sure your business is visible on things like, where appropriate, Instagram, Google Maps, YouTube, things like that, because almost all of these tools are completely free to use, and basically you then become visible to anybody with a smartphone in their hand. So that's potentially tens of millions of people across the UK. So why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ojay. And finally, Susanna.
Yeah, I would say to embrace and create a new normal proactively, so that we're combining the best of technology with the best of human endeavour. And as the saying goes, he who dares wins.
Absolutely, Susanna. Thank you very much. Perfect. So what we'll just, for the last minute, we've got a call to action similar to what we did for the last live share. So I know that Kate mentioned about the Deliver Best tool, and we'd like to share the link for this with you all in the chat. So Anish will be posting that in a second. So Kate touched on how the tool would be useful for a business. It's a very quick, simple form, and it would be great for all of you to fill it out. So you can see what can be done to help your business and to help improve local air quality. So please do check that out. And perfect. So I'd also like to point you into the direction of our next live share session, which will be on Thursday, September the 24th at the same time, 2 p.m. The topic of the session will be Better Prepared Lessons Learned from the Covid-19 Crisis. So the Eventbrite for this will be issued very shortly, so do keep an eye out. And finally, also do remember to sign up to our newsletter and follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn to receive all our latest updates and upcoming live share sessions. So a registration link for the next one will be publicised via these platforms too, so do keep an eye out. As mentioned at the beginning, the live share session will be recorded. All of our past live share sessions have been recorded, and all of our future ones will be done too. And these are all posted on our YouTube channel, and the link is in front of you on the screens. Yes, and any questions you have, as always, please don't hesitate to get in touch with any one of us. Our contact details are on your screens now. And I'd finally like to thank all of our speakers today for some really thought-provoking presentations, and a big thank you to all of you for attending this afternoon. Remember to stay safe, and see you all again very soon. Goodbye.